Today I'm going to talk about mental disorders, but more in depth than I did before. So, when you smoke cannabis or do drugs like cocaine, it goes to cerebellum, getting you high or stoned. After a long period of time, it gives you the inability to think properly. Eventually, it stops you from being able to think. And all this information you used to think is forced into other areas of the brain. So your 10% brain power is forced into other areas of the brain, greatly enhancing these areas of the brain because you can't process information because this has been stopped. Now your brain is wired on its own survival. So let me explain this. So feelings and emotions. Now your emotions draw you into thinking your feelings, and this is all for learning. Your emotions and feelings run you, things you like doing, depending on your sort of stereotype for learning. So, um, so I'll talk about emotions here. So emotions draw into things for learning. So you might like playing Xbox or maybe play fighting, playing baseball, and these are sort of all predatory things, and your feelings to sort of gain information and learn how to do it. Now this is all run off the memory. Now everything is run off your memory. If you didn't have a memory, you would be like a baby got another memory. So everything's run off your memory, like words, uh, everything, your logic, absolutely everything is run off your memory. So everything you sort of learned. So the learning part. So you use this all for learning your emotions. So talk about your short-term memory here. So you use your short-term memory the most to have conversations because we're social beings. Sort of and we enjoy socializing, maybe with females or to attract females for evolution. Uh, uh, and you enjoy conversations and you learn from conversation. It goes into your memory. Narratives run off your memories. So again, so with your memory, like you pick things up, you put it somewhere, you remember it was, and you put it somewhere else. See what I mean? So this is how your memory works. You use everything's run off your memory. You use your memory to sort of do these sort of things for learning and self-control. So this is why you have no self-control. It's because you use your memory to do all this stuff. So the short-term memory thing, this could be the massive cause of anxiety. So you're not giving off the right impression maybe because your short-term memory doesn't work, and you may have this enhanced paranoia of things. So reality now, actually your reality is run of time. So if you're psychotically depressed because these informations weren't processed properly, so your emotions, this is sort of what for your survival. So you're learning for your survival. So everything, as I say again, is run off the memory. So your survival. So these are like, this is sort of why you have these voices booming up in these voices sort of building up in your brain because these are memories of something you heard before, maybe you needed to listen to. It might have been important. So this is what's building up in your brain. You need these. So the pressures in your brain. Your brain's a physical thing. It's actually a tissue flashing inside the brain with these processes of information. So these processes, they will build up in your brain, creating these pressures inside your brain and these sensations. It's because they need to be processed for your survival, for learning. Because your brain also again is wired in survival, so if you can't learn about things, you're a bit of a sitting duck. You're surrounded by predators all the time. Yeah, so you need this for learning. So this is essentially why this is all building up on your brain, because you need this process for for your learning. So concept of time and reality. So the interpretation of reality. Now your reality might not be interpreted properly. So yeah, reality. So your reality sort of run out of time. So you remember what time it is, and you sort of have a duration of the day. You know, so you remember certain things, and this all sort of comes together in your mind. So, uh, so the concept of time, you know what you're doing, it goes into your memory. So it gives you sort of a reality of time. So this is loss of reality. Your reality is also sort of processed through your cerebellum by these microprocessors. So this sort of reality, the reality of everything else. And so there's nothing, well, it's all sort of interpreted through your eyes and ears and mouth and nose. So this is all processed in the cerebellum by these tiny little microprocessors of information that might be added to by different parts of the brain, from your memory or whatever, to be processed. And if this is not sort of working properly, you can get funny tastes and funny sensations and funny smells, because it's not being interpreted properly through the brain or through the cerebellum. So your personality is also processed through your cerebellum. This is also where your empathies are. So, as I was saying, your emotions, you use your memory for your self-control, to sort of remember what you put saying, to have conversations with people. These information come from your brain, from your memory. So your short-term memory, this could be the cause of your massive anxiety, because you have no short-term memory to have these sort of conversations, to give off maybe a good impression. Maybe this is what you rely on, or so it could be causing you massive anxiety. The emotions that sort of need to be processed for this learning of information. This all needs to be processed, and this is why it's backing up in your brain, and this is why you're getting vicious circles in your mind. This is why you're getting voices, because these are voices of memories from maybe earlier before that sort of need to be processed, or something you may need to be remembered that may be important to you, or important to your important to you, your survival of things. Yeah. And while you have these pressures in your brain and all this stuff that is trying to be processed and needs to be processed. So the psychotic depression. Now the psychotic depression, this is because none of these emotions are being processed, and you sort of got, this is why the panic has set off. The panic is sort of letting you know that something seriously was wrong. And this is why you're sort of so depressed, is because you've lost everything. You use all this part of your brain to sort of live and for your happiness. You know what I mean? And it's a very complex thing. So you've lost everything in your life, so you're extremely depressed. You're psychotic because of all this information that's not being processed. So the same sort of thing can be caused by stress. Now, this can cause the same sort of problems. So if you've got these stresses, it can make you mentally ill through these stresses. So mental illness is there sort of for a reason. So if there's wars or anything like that, so someone invading the tribe, you could look at it like that. It can cause the same sort of stresses and sort of make you psychotic and mentally ill. So it's there for a reason, a purpose, to sort of for your own survival, again. But this is not needed. We can avoid this. So I've looked up on the internet and they have cured it by dissolving THCs off the brain. So this THC has gone into your brain. This THC has gone into your brain. This is a gradual thing that you've gone through, and it's the THCs are constantly in your brain, constantly in your brain, constantly in your brain, and they've caked your brain with this shit, with this stuff. and sort of cause this to happen. And obviously THC is still in the brain, so as I said again, you dissolve the THCs. Oh yeah, I was going to say about conscience. So sort of with the emotional thing, you might see something, you might like it, and it creates an interest in or amazement. You're like, oh yeah, I really like that, and you sort of learn about it. And you're taking these informations. What else? Yeah, it reacts with your consciousness, so it can give you the feeling of sort of being dead, or sort of having no sort of conscious of anything, because this is not happening. These emotions are not being processed, and they all run off your memory, and you remember all this stuff through your learning, and it's all run off your memory. So the self-control, I say again, you use your memory to coordinate what you're doing. If you have a memory of something, you put it somewhere else. It might be, this might be for anything. You might use it for conversations. Remember what he said, and then you say something to someone else, or then you have conversations. So no self-control, because this is not happening anymore. And these emotions sort of run off. These memories are sort of connected to your emotions for your sort of learning, and it's extremely clever and intelligent. So as I was saying, your brain is a physical thing. It's actually inside your head. It's a piece of flesh that processes information. Uh, these tiny little combinations of information combined together, and they're processed through the brain, and they're going to cerebellum, where they're processing and react with you, and with you, and you're conscious of it. See what I mean? So this is why we need this. Now, alcohol also dissolves THC, but we should be doing this in a safe way. There is obviously a better way of doing it. Um, so you can, if you drink, maybe if you're drinking alcohols, you can dissolve THCs and allow sort of these emotions to come through, and massive angers and shit like that, and negatives. But yeah, so this is the sort of thing that should be sort of avoided, if you know what I mean. So we can dissolve the THCs off the brain and get rid of sort of mental illness. So the dissolve the THC is a normal process to presume